out a deep sigh.
"I'll figure something out."
After another long exhale, Mason remembered his manners.
"Tell me what's new with you."
Clay wasted no time diving into the details of the new law firm he'd signed with. The legal mumbo-jumbo dazed Mason like his former teacher's lesson plans, but he nodded along as he drank his soda and watched the back door for his classmates. Mid-sip, a familiar face stepped into his line of sight, making him swallow hard to keep from spewing pop everywhere. Lily Anne Dawson, chief, editor-in-chief, to be exact, leader of the Pine Valley Gazette, the school paper that had pushed the two of them together all 4 years of high school. Chief for short, and for the frenzy the name worked Lily Anne into. There was no prettier sight than a wide-eyed, red-cheeked Lily Anne. Watching her, Clay's voice faded away, replaced by a rushing of blood between Mason's ears. She was exactly as he remembered her, slightly crooked nose and knock-your-socks-off smile, poised, graceful and elegant in a little black dress beneath a fitted fire-engine red blazer. A few stray curls framed her face, while the rest of the unruly locks were secured by some sort of twist. Mason let his gaze linger, adding the picture to the mental album he used so much it had never collected dust. She wasn't the one who got away, but the unexplored might have been, since he'd never worked up the courage to make a move. Instead, he preferred sideline stares, watching from afar while she carried on, none the wiser. Mason straightened his chair as she floated across the shiny gym floor. Maybe tonight he'd get a fresh start. Maybe he'd ask her to dance. Maybe he'd work up the nerve to tell her he—
"What do you think?"
Mason blurted the singular thought he was capable of forming in that moment, not even caring enough to turn back to the table.
"She's beautiful."
"Huh? Who?"
"Oh, gotcha."
Clay had crossed his arms over his chest, a smug grin firmly in place when Mason turned back to face him.
"Guess some things never change." "Shut it and tell me what you were asking before this drink finds its way over your head."
Even though the threat was hollow, Mason narrowed his eyes at Clay from across the table. The last thing he needed was commentary on his high school crush that refused to die. Try as he might to keep his feelings for Lily Anne under wraps, Mason's attraction to the blonde beauty was no secret to the man seated across from him. When Lily Anne received an anonymous rose with a knock-knock joke for a message sophomore year, Clay had put 2 and 2 together and got 4, recognizing the joke from a book Mason had toted around.
"Well, now that I have your attention,"
Clay chuckled,
"I was wondering if I need a new biopic since I took on the internship." "It's your preference, but an update is never a bad idea. I'll knock it out for you before you head back. I'm in town indefinitely."
"Interesting. Lily Anne is home again, too, and single." Clay leaned across the table and waggled his brows. Mason gave him the evil eye before scanning Lily Anne's hands. Being only 2 tables away, he spotted the glint of a stainless steel band on her 4th finger. He felt the air rush out of him until he realized it was on her right hand and looked identical to the purity ring attached to his key fob. There'd been chance after chance to renege on his vow of celibacy. All those women abroad, gorgeous, mouth-watering women, eager for his attention and appreciative of his looks, had been tempting, but he'd never crossed that line, regardless of what might have been said or printed that stated otherwise. He'd reserved true intimacy for marriage, and after seeing evidence that Lily Anne had done the same, he'd never been happier with his choice. Tonight might be his second chance. Before he talked himself out of his seat and into Lily Anne's space, the DJ interrupted.
"Y'all are not going to believe what I found. It's the most redneck time capsule I've ever seen. Anyone remember what's in here?"
The DJ stood from behind the turntable and looked around the gym. The graduates of Pine Valley High did not disappoint as shouts flew from across the room. "Prom Queen's Garter, Band Conductor's Wand, Senior Edition of the Gazette." The last guess glued Mason's feet to the floor as the guy behind the turntable started holding up each item. When a copy of the aforementioned Gazette waved in the air,